Hannah Wallace and welcome to Finextra TV. We're here at Money 2020 Europe, and kindly joining me now in the press lounge is Sophia Bantanidis from Citi. Hello Sophia, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, pleasure to be here.
So one of the first things I want to talk to you about is compliance. It's a big topic at this year's Money 2020. Can you tell me why can regulatory compliance make or break a business?
Okay, that's a very good question, but before we talk about compliance, we need to take a step back. We need to look at the rules and regulations, because it's the rules and regulations that set your parameters for what you can do and what you can't do. So that's your starting point. And then you overlay it with compliance, who is there to interpret the rules for the business and to put the systems and controls in place around the rules. Then you overlay that with risk, that sets the risk tone for the firm and the firm's risk appetite around rules. And then you have legal as well, that do the legal interpretations. And it's at this point where you internalize the rules. This is where it can make or break the business. It depends on two things. Number one, it depends on how you're interpreting the rules, to what degree you're taking a pragmatic approach or to what degree you're taking a very conservative approach. And number two, it depends around the governance and risk framework you have for compliance. What do I mean by that is, are you looking at rules and regulation only through one lens? What do I need to do to comply? Or are you overlaying a whole separate lens of it on how can I make money out of compliance? Are there any revenue generating opportunities for me? And many banks only or regulated firms more broadly, it doesn't have to be a bank, could be any industry, focus on the first lens and not on the second lens, because the second lens is much more difficult to implement in practice and to get the skills around it.
All right, very interesting. And why is this the cornerstone to any expansion strategy, do you think?
Another very good question, and I suppose, look, if you think about expansion, what does it mean? And you'll see if you start to unpick the term, it really comes back to compliance with rules and regulations. Expansion can mean I'm going to expand my business by going into a new market. Okay, before I make a firm decision to do that, I need to understand the regulatory environment very well. What can I or can't I do in that market? How do I set myself up in that market? A branch, a subsidiary? Am I going to passport into that market if I'm in Europe? What kind of regulatory approvals do I need? That's one point of expansion, links back to rules. The second point of expansion is what products and services am I going to offer, in addition to what I'm doing today? And what rules applies around these new products and services that I want to offer? And number three is what kind of clients am I going to go after? So am I expanding from wholesale into retail clients? But as you know very well, many rules and regulations, in terms of the compliance element, it depends what your client base is, with more onerous requirements, of course, applying for the retail and the consumer sector. So that's why you have to address this upfront when you think about expanding.
Well, following up on that quite nicely then, we've also seen sort of a peak in investment in the compliance sector. What do you think is causing this?
Many things. I think in the aftermath to the financial services crisis, it was because of the regulatory tsunami that we were hit, right? So regulated firms were focused on creating best-in-breed compliance departments, which included a lot of investments. Now, it's changed a little bit, where firms are looking at opportunities from rules and regulations, and they're overlaying technology with that. This requires investment as well. And then finally, if you just think about the UK for a moment, but I think other countries may follow suit, we have the toughest accountability regime, the senior managers regime, right? So now more than ever, if you're an accountable executive and you're caught by the regime, you're going to want more from your compliance team to give you that comfort that you're operating within your designated roles and responsibilities. This is putting a lot of pressure on compliance and causing more investment in the sector.
You certainly painted the picture there and given some very good advice. Sophia, thank you very much for coming and speaking with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Hannah.
And thank you for watching.